to have come across your page on YouTube. Thank you so much for giving me the confidence I needed to pass this PMP exam. You are what a PMP would call a servant leader. I get emails like these on daily basis, but there is a special reason why I am sharing this email with you. On January 2nd, 2021, new PMP tests started including 50% Agile PMP questions. Now you may be wondering that you have no clue about Agile, you don't practice Agile, then how can you solve the real PMP situational questions on Agile? Or you're actually thinking the other way around, which is you are a CSM or you are a CSPO and you think that solving these Agile questions in PMP exam would be a cakewalk. Then I'm so sorry, you are mistaken. PMP exam is difficult and you have to wear that PMI hat in order to solve the PMP situational questions in Agile. Hey guys, I am Varun, the founder of EduHubSpot. In this video, I'll give you a brief introduction about Agile in PMP exam and solve some scenario-based PMP exam questions to see whether you are able to apply the concepts in real PMP exam or not. So grab a pen and paper or your laptop and let's dive right into it. Before I even start talking about the agenda items for this particular video, I want to tell you one thing. Please make sure that you are listening to each and every concept in detail. The reason why? Because I will be asking you real multiple choice questions after the end of each topic, which will of course come later in the part. So if you don't understand the concepts in the beginning, then you won't be able to answer the questions. Getting the PMP concept is one thing. Anyone can teach you. I can teach you or anyone else. But the real point is that are you able to apply those PMP concepts in solving the PMP questions or not? This is what I will teach you. I'll teach you a concept and then I will teach you the exam questions. What I will be discussing? I'll be discussing about the Agile, of course, the introduction to Agile, Agile Manifesto, some of the Agile teams and Agile leadership, both the adaptive and servant leadership. Then I will give you a brief on some of the popular Agile methodologies like Scrum, XP, Lean and Kanban development, and finally the triangle of constraints. After each of these topics, once again, please make sure that you are applying the concepts and solving the PMP exam questions. So let's see. First of all, what is Agile? Ability to be flexible, ability to move quickly, easily and adapt. So there was a problem in the predictive world. The predictive life cycle, basically the waterfall model, whatever you say, that if you want to make a change, it's not impossible, but it's very, very expensive. People want to see the product in their hands early as possible. That's what customer expect, and that is what Agile did. They were flexible, they embraced change. They wanted to make sure that you understand that changes are okay, and that's what Agile did it for us. What is the definition of Agile? And a lot of times, when I ask my students, whenever I'm delivering my PMP courses, live PMP courses, I ask my students, what do you think is Agile? People will say it's incremental, it's iterative, it's fast, we don't need any planning. Or some people even go further and tell me that no documentation, no design, and more importantly, no management at all. However, this is not totally true. And of course, I will guide you with that, how it is not totally true. But before that, I will tell you what Agile Manifesto is. Individuals and interactions over processes and tools. In your PMP exam, if you see, it was all about the 49 processes, 10 knowledge areas, 5 process groups. Agile doesn't say that. Agile says that of course, processes and tools are there. There is definitely an importance of those, but you give more importance to individuals, people like you and I. This interaction, what I'm doing with you, I'm pretty sure, you're watching this video, but I'm sitting miles and miles away from you, but still you're able to understand. That's Agile. Working software over comprehensive documentation. If I give you this slide and I say, read it yourself. Of course you will read it, and I'm pretty sure that you may get 10%, 20%, 40%. But this video, what is this video? This is a working software. I'm showing it to you, I'm giving it to you so that you can understand, you can relate to it. Customer collaboration over contract negotiation. When we did our procurement management, what do? Buyer, seller, someone is buying, someone is selling, ultimately the goal is that it's a win-win in PMI's language, win-win for both buyer and seller. However, it's not about negotiation. Negotiation is one of the tools in your procurement management. Agile is all about customer collaboration. That's what we will do. Responding to change over following a plan. Yes, what is the next step you will do? You will many times in your PMP exam get questions like these. What is the next step? As a project manager, what should you do next? But Agile is not about just following a plan where your answer is update the project management plan or update the requirements document or something. It's all about how quickly you respond to a change. Remember, Agile embraces change. In reality, what is Agile? Of course it is incremental, of course it is iterative. Now, a lot of people actually ask this question to me, Varun, what is the difference between incremental and iterative? Now, of course, I will tell you what incremental is and what iterative is, but this is something I will be discussing in my next video, which is the types of life cycle. So stay tuned for that video, but let's first have an introduction of what Agile is. Initially, I told you it is fast, of course, but results seem faster. What do I mean by that is, customer, after every iteration or after every sprint, I will tell you what sprint is in some time, but after every sprint, they may be able to see a prototype or they may be able to see the features faster. Okay, no planning? No, it's absolutely wrong. There is planning. There is, I would say, sprint planning meeting, release planning meeting, things like that. But you prefer progressive elaboration or rolling wave planning. Now I know you might be confused on the difference between progressive elaboration and rolling wave planning, but don't worry, I will be covering that as well. No documentation? No, that's also wrong. Of course, you only make required needed documentation. You make it, but only if it is needed and whatever it is. Okay, no design? No, you have an emergent design. You constantly increment the design. You constantly come up with the better design. No management? Absolutely wrong. There is management. In fact, there is actually servant leadership. And I will be talking about in some time the difference between the adaptive and servant leadership. And on top of that, I will be asking you a PMP exam question also. Let's see. Agile. As per the Agile Alliance, the ability to balance and be flexible, create and respond to a change. Once again, what is Agile? Create and respond to a change. How quickly you can respond. That is what Agile is. Agile teams, they are self-organizing. What do I mean by self-organizing? In your traditional predictive world, typically, the culture is that, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? Okay, can you take care of this? But in Agile world, it's self-organizing. Teams work collaboratively. They self-organize. They decide, okay, I'll do this. You do this. Someone will say, okay, let me pick up this. That's what it is. It is cross-functional. What does cross-functional means? It means you are your team members, typically 3 to 9 team members, and they are part of different teams. So they are not just from one team, they are from different teams. Transparency. That is the most important, I would say, and the best feature about Agile, which I personally like, is transparency. Everybody knows what you are working on. You are not working in silos, which traditionally happen. You trust each other. You support each other. And of course, there is a decision making. You don't go to someone, senior and say, hey, can I do this for each and every little things? It's wasting time. It's unnecessary. In Agile, you take decision, you move on. But don't quote me for this. There would be few scenarios where, of course, you need the approval from product owner or you need the approval from customer or sponsor. Of course. But mostly, For things, you take self-decision, and you move on. Continuous improvement. You continuously, since you are showing a prototype or a product after every 2 weeks iteration or sprint, this is what you will continuously seeing an improvement in your plan. Agile leadership. Now, leadership is of multiple types. It's not just about adaptive or servant leadership. There is other leadership types also, which I actually talked about in my introduction section, and where I talked about, I think 5 to C, transformational, transactional leadership, and all those things, leader. But this is specifically covering the agile leadership, and let's see what are these two. Oh, remember, I will be asking you a question after this topic. Adaptive leadership is a practical leadership framework that helps individuals to adapt to changing environment. The name states adaptive. What does adaptive means? You are adapting to change. What happened in 2020? Because of COVID situation, a lot of small businesses, a lot of companies, they were not easily adapting to the change. Wow, why? It was new to them. They were not ready for it. Only those companies survived which believed in adaptive leadership, whose leadership was adaptive. Who thought that the grocery would come through Amazon, or it would be delivered to your houses through Amazon? I never thought. I never ordered grocery on Amazon, but now I did. That was the adaptive, that's the change which I embraced to, right? And that's come from adaptive leadership. Failure to adapt, if you see Nokia, biggest example. Now everyone either uses Android, like Samsung, Google Pixel, or you use the Apple phones. BlackBerry, gone. Compaq, gone. Kodak, another example, gone. Why? Because they didn't adapt to change. Netflix, now in the COVID situation, most of the people spend their time on Netflix. But you know what? Before Netflix, it was Blockbuster. I'm pretty sure you might not know about Blockbuster as well. This is what Blockbuster failed to adapt, and you know where it is. You don't even know. Everybody knows Netflix because that's what they do. Adaptive leadership. It's not the strongest of the species that survive, not the most intelligent that survives. It is the one that is most adaptable to change. That's what Agile is. If you don't change, if you are not okay to change, then you're not going to succeed. Okay, so it helps to gradually and meaningfully adapt to organization changes. Now, if you are in a waterfall model, if you are in a predictive world, and you want to move to adaptive leadership, Agile, you need adaptive leadership. It helps to identify the essentials and discard the non-essentials. A lot of times, I personally, as a project manager, worked with my team to create unnecessary documentation. Nobody read it. So, Agile, you discard the non-essentials and you focus only on the essentials. Adaptive leaders helps others by asking the right questions and challenging the traditional approaches. That's exactly what we do. If you see, before I even started talking about the introduction to Agile, I told you one thing. You have to wear the PMI hat in order to solve the PMP exam questions. You have to make sure that you understand. Understanding the concept is one thing. Applying that concept in solving the exam question is totally different, right? You are adapting to a change over here. Employees become more flexible and more valuable to the employer. That's what adaptive leadership does. On the other way around, what is a servant leadership? Servant leader says that people first. For them, it's all about people. They are servants. It begins with a natural feeling that one wants to serve or to serve. If you remember, I started this video and I told you a story about Tiara. She told me that what PMP is called, she compared with me a servant leader. Why? Because I put her first. My goal was just to make sure that she passed this exam, and that was what I was after. That's servant leadership. It shares power. Put the needs of other first. Put the needs of other first. That's the most important statement. It helps people to develop and perform as highly as possible. Personalized management for each diverse member. If typically, I have seen leaders who say that, hey, you know what, I don't have time. I'm going, I'll talk to you. Why don't you talk to Mr. X? Why don't you talk to your direct supervisor? But there are few leaders who put people first. They make sure, and this actually in turn help the employees of the company because there is a sense of loyalty to them. Workplace productivity rises just because if you have servant leaders. Okay, what are the key characteristics? As I told you, it put people's first, serves others, empowers team, motivates team, sell ideas, okay, value diverse opinions. They don't shut down or shot down all the ideas with the team member. They accept it, they respect it, they want you to come up with ideas. It creates a culture of trust. It develops other leaders. You will see leaders, who don't want others to grow because it will threaten their position. But servant leader doesn't do that. They want you to become a leader. They think long term and actually act with humility. Okay, now it's time to discuss about a sample question. But before I even go into this, I want to make sure that you read this question, use the elimination technique which I will teach you, or I have already taught you through my other videos, and then come up with a conclusion, come up with an answer. In the comment section, I want you to write for this first question which I'm discussing, what is the correct answer. Don't just say it is A, B, C or D. Please, I'm not here after A, B, C, D. Of course, I'll be telling you those answers as well. But I want you to give me a reason that why you think A is correct or why you think B is correct. That's very, very important. As an Agile coach, you have been encouraging your team to keep a regular focus on improving their efficiencies. You frequently ask them to imagine how much efficiency enhancement they can achieve if they can focus on one small enhancement every day. What are you trying to do? So when you see questions like these, you have to do one thing. Try to, come up with the keywords. Try to see the keywords which are there because that will help you to understand the question. So basically, I would say the keyword in the question is one small enhancement every day. That's what they are doing. Let's see. Is it improving the team performance? I would say if you are doing small enhancements every day, it may improve the team performance. It may help. Guiding the team towards value delivery, I would say, if you are doing one small increments per day, it may ultimately guide the team towards value delivery as well. C, being a servant leader, guide them to identify and resolve issues. Okay, we just learned the topic about servant leadership and we have a question over here. Let's see. D, continuous Kaizen and continuous improvement. Now, what is my elimination technique? On a piece of paper, write down these A, B, C, D. Then I want you to go through each option and start eliminating. Don't tell me A is correct or C is correct. Read it and see which one is better. PMP exam question is all about which answer is better, and it's all about choosing the best answer over here. So first of all, focus on one small enhancement every day. Is it necessarily improving the team performance? What is the relation of this by the team performance? It's nowhere in the question they are talking about team performance and stuff like that. You are just an Agile coach and you are focusing the team to focus on improving the efficiency. That's it. They are nowhere talking about improving the team performance. You can eliminate this choice. B, guiding the team towards value delivery. One small enhancement every day does not mean that you are giving value. It may mean that whatever you made, it was worthless. It didn't prove what you wanted to make. So it's not necessarily means that you are guiding the team towards value delivery. It could be, it may not. So it's a good option, but not definitely the best answer. C, being a servant leader, guiding a team to identify and resolve the issues. Now you have to understand one thing. This topic was about adaptive leadership and servant leadership. That does not mean the right answer is C. This question, I deliberately put it over here for you to get confused and pick C as the answer. I'm pretty sure most of you would now be laughing and saying that, oh, you know what, I thought that C is the correct answer. But no, in your real PMP exam, you will be solving 180 questions in 230 minutes. Now, it's not telling you that this question is from scope management or this question is from communication management. All the questions would be mixed together. They will be all related with each other, and that is where the confusion will lie. Nowhere in that question they're saying that you are resolving the issues. Nowhere they said that. What they said that it is about efficiency, and they are saying that you are making one small enhancement. So you are updating. So basically that's your Kaizen and continuous improvement. So you're continuously improving it. I know I didn't talk about Kaizen right now, but this is something which I'll be discussing in my future videos. So make sure you go on my website www.eduhubspot.com to understand Kaizen, but don't go now. I will be solving many questions like these after every topic. So let's continue our journey. So correct answer in this case is D. So Scrum, a lot of people used to ask me, I always used to tell them that Agile is the future. People are going crazy about Agile. And then I would say, and PMI was realizing that as well. And that was the reason why PMI introduced Agile into their PMP exam. They still have their own Agile discipline where they teach about ACP and other disciplined Agile. Of course, ACP hands down is the most popular Agile certification, but still, when I used to talk to people, whenever I used to use the word Agile, the first thing they used to tell me was Scrum. Scrum is the most popular Agile methodology. It is adaptive, iterative, fast and flexible. I won't be able to do justice if I explain you, Scrum in this video. For this, my next chapter, which is on Agile planning, I have explained Scrum in detail. So of course I would be talking about that in very much detail, the Scrum artifacts, the Scrum ceremonies, Scrum Master, Agile Coach, Product Owner, what does, all those, what is iteration, what is sprints, I would talk in detail. But of course, I would make sure that you at least understand the step-by-step process of how Scrum works. So let's imagine I want to make a website. I want to make a website of my training, right? My training company, I want to make a website. So initially, at the very high level, I would have a business case that why I want to make a website. My main goal to make the website is to make sure that, people like you and I and other people are able to, do professional certifications. So for that, I will come up with the project vision statement. Vision statement will clearly, explain that this is the vision of your project. So in my case, the vision of my project is to make a professional website so that, for professionals who want to learn certifications and grow their, career. Now from that vision statement, I will come up with a list of requirements. In a traditional world, you used to use the word BRD, but in Agile, you use the word product backlog. So product backlog is the list of all the requirements you wanted in your product. That will be definitely, so you will plan for releases also. You will say that, okay, in every year, we will be doing a quarterly release, a major quarterly release. So you will have a release planning session, which will clearly say that these are the list of major deliverables, which you would be launching in these quarters, Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. Now, this is at a release level. But then you are doing work also, right? So for that, you will have sprints. Typically, sprints are 1 to 4 weeks, and I would say typically they are around 2 weeks sprints. From that product backlog, let's say there are 100 requirements in that product backlog. You will probably say that, okay, for my next sprint, I will take top 20 requirements, which as per your priority, and you will solve, you will build, you will make those top 20 requirements, user stories in that particular sprint. So that is what, for the next 2 weeks, the team will be working on those 20 user flows, use cases. Then after the 2 week cycle, and I'm assuming it's a 2 week sprint, you will have a sprint review meeting. The sprint review meeting will show you the list of things. Basically, what in sprint review meeting, you have to give a demo to the customer saying that, okay, these were the things which you asked and this is what we did. So this is your first half of your sprint review meeting. The later half, you will spend it on what are the things which your next sprint will take. Once you do that, then you have retrospective. If you have heard the term lessons learned, in Agile world, you can kind of compare retrospective and lessons learned together. There is slight difference, which as I told you, I will explain when I'm explaining Scrum in very much detail in the next chapter. But retrospectives are talking about what are the things which went well, what are the things which could have been better. Okay, and then there is a back and forth. If there are few things in the sprint review meeting, like for instance, we were supposed to do those 20 requirements. Let's say we only did 18. The remaining 2 requirements will go back to the product backlog. They will again be prioritized and to make sure that they still have the same priority or if their priority has decreased. So there would be a back and forth between the sprint review basically and your product backlog, because that will constantly feed in there. Okay. So now let's talk about a sample question for your whatever topics. I know Scrum is I just gave you a brief introduction, but it's a very, very large topic and I would be discussing that in detail in the next chapter videos where I have specifically dedicated Scrum planning. That video is available exclusively on my website www.eduhubspot.com. But before you go there, let's do a sample question and see whatever you have learned, are you able to apply it or not? Your organization has applied for CMMI L5 certification, which mandates a detailed set of documentation. How would you address this as a Scrum Master? Now, many of you would say that, hey, I have no clue about what CMI L5 certification is. Honestly, I also don't know what CMMI L5 certification is. Would I be able to answer this question? Yes, and I'll show you exactly how. These kind of things are given just to confuse you. And remember, we have to use our elimination technique. First, reject the documentation requirement as Scrum teams believe in just good enough documents. Okay. Now this you can surely say that, hey, you know what? Scrum does not include documentation. But if you remember, I told you that it's not about no documentation. It's actually about the necessary documentation. And this question explicitly says mandates. So this is a mandatory requirement that you have to make a documentation. So you cannot reject this request. B, talk to the process compliance team and explain how Scrum team focuses on value delivery. Anything else is considered waste. Same reason. If it's a mandatory requirement to make detailed set of documentation, and then that's the project for. So B is gone as well. C, discuss with sponsor and seek her support in removing the extra documentation requirement for the Scrum team. Okay, where in the question they said that they are talking about extra documentation? How did we come to a conclusion? Sometimes in your question, the way PMI will phrase the question, you will think that these are the correct statement. But did anywhere in the question there was the word extra or something which implies the word extra? No. So C is out as well. D, adapt to organizational documentation requirement and prepare them. Exactly. This is a mandatory requirement and you have to make sure that you should make it. That's what Agile is about. It's not about no documentation. It's not about that. It's actually about the necessary documentation. So the correct answer in this case should be D. Next we have is XP. XP is your extreme programming. It's another agile methodology which is very, very popular in software development. Now, for your PMP exam, you really don't need to go into detail about what extreme programming is. You only just need to know some basic things, and of course I will be covering those basic things here, and in future videos I'll be talking about extreme programming here and there, but not in a detailed manner. Okay, let's see what is extreme. It takes some of the best practices of traditional software engineering to an extreme level. Extensive code reviews, extensive testing of all the code, doing programming in pairs, write code only if needed. Okay, if you think, hey, you know what, I'm from healthcare. Oh, hey, you know what, I'm from construction. I have no clue about what a coding is. Again, it's okay, it's absolutely fine. I'm not asking you to learn how to code. This technique is just telling you that you are doing extensive code reviews. What do I mean by that is you are following the best practices around the world to make sure your code is perfect. You are using all the features which will make sure that your code is perfect. It is bug free. It has no issues. Like programming in pairs. What does that mean? That your two programmers, your two developers are working together and looking at each other's work, learning from each other, working together. They are not checking each other's, of course they check each other's code also just to make sure that the work is done, but not at a detail. I mean, they are learning together, they are working together. That's what it means. Okay. And of course, if the code is simple and clear, your end result would definitely be better. So that's your extreme programming. Now, the difference between extreme programming and your Scrum is extreme programming is typically for your engineering background, and it's about the best practices. Scrum is something, it's all about the sprints, the 2-week sprints, the releases, and the grooming sessions and all those things. So this is much more control. If I have to pick one technique out of extreme programming and Scrum, I would definitely hands down go for Scrum. And that is why Scrum is actually the most popular technique also. Now, few other methodologies in Agile is lean software development, Kanban. Now, if you see, lean is not a methodology, it's actually a mindset. It's actually a process that how you approach, how you think about a particular situation. And lean came from the manufacturing principles. So you see how the software industry adapted the best practices from manufacturing world. What is this? And if you know that you are comparing this with Lean Six Sigma and Lean Black Belt, Green Belt, you are absolutely right. This is exactly. Lean is also an Agile. Scrum is also Agile. Lean is all about adding value. It's all about removing waste. So if you see something which is extra, which is of no value, remove it. That's what lean is all about. It removes anything which is not adding any value. It looks at the areas which cause problem and it improves them. This at a very basic level. I'm explaining lean right now, but there would be full discussions on lean as well in my later set of videos. I think it's in my monitoring in Agile video chapter where I have talked about lean also, and there are some mathematical questions also about lean. So make sure you are listening, you are watching those videos in detail also. But before we do that, let's talk about Kanban. Now, if I have to pick any one particular methodology after Scrum which is popular, I'll definitely go for Kanban. Kanban, it's all about visual work. Like for instance, I am right now a very hands-on person. What I do, I want to see things to understand. Like the same way, I was talking about these slides, right? If I show you the slides, you will probably read it, you will probably learn it. But if you notice one thing, my slides have pictures. You know why? Because I'm trying to make sure I keep it interactive. Why are you watching this video? Why are you listening to me right now? It's about hands-on approach, and that is what Kanban did for us. And let me show you a Kanban board. And this is what typically it is done. It is to do, doing, done. To do, doing, done. That's how typically it is. Some companies, some projects, they say to do, instead of the word doing, they say in progress, then they say a word testing, and finally it is done. But typically it is a three-way. I would say to do, doing, done. So what happens in Kanban is that you write your user stories on sticky notes, and you place those sticky notes in the to-do column. When you place it on the to-do column, all your team members will come in and see, hey, you know what? This is a good higher priority. Let me pick this. They will pick. Okay. Then someone else will come in and say, oh, you know what? Let me pick this. So they will pick that user story and they will put it on in progress stage. When they put it on in progress stage, this means that these are the user stories which your team members are working on. Once it is done, completed, then they will pass it to your done state. That is your Kanban board. A very important lot of techniques, and I just gave you a brief introduction right now because this is an introduction video, but I would definitely talk about this in detail in my, I would say, second chapter or third chapter videos, but I'm covering this in detail. Okay, so let's see. Generally, lean mindset and principles are applied with Kanban tools. Again, what was Kanban about? Removing waste. So you apply the lean mindset and you apply it on the Kanban. Lean teams finds what is not adding value and getting rid of waste. Exactly. In the Kanban, if you see that something is of no value, you will not even put it on the Kanban board, or you will just straight away remove them. Okay. You use tools like limit the work in progress, or you use the pull system to improve the efficiency. Pull system, the way I just explained you. You pull the work from that sticky note, do the work and move on. Limiting the work in progress means that you set a limit so that team members should not pick more than X amount of user stories at a time. Now you will say you will think that this is a bad thing. Not really. If you put a limit, then team members work it actually improves the efficiency, and I will talk about that in detail at a later, that how it improves, but it definitely does. Of course, both lean and Kanban complement each other. In fact, they actually both work together. It helps to visualize the whole system. To do, doing, done. That's all about visualization, right? You can see the things. It is actually an information radiator, something which I will talk in the Agile communication. Information radiator, which means this is something which would be clearly visible to everyone. Kanban board, it's not small, it's big. Everyone who is walking by in the office space will probably see this. For virtual teams, they have online tools. So it's very visualization. Now, last topic for the Agile introduction is this triangle of constraints, and once I'm done with that, I will once again solve some practice question and see whether you learned these concepts, are you able to apply these concepts or not. So let's see, triangle of constraints. The traditional predictive triangle, iron triangle, was scope, cost, schedule. In Agile, you all still have scope, cost, schedule, but there is a little difference. What is that difference? In your traditional iron triangle, scope, cost and fixed, both cost and schedule were fixed. Typically, you plan for it in the upfront, and of course, typically if you ask me, scope is also kind of fixed. But still, you allow changes. It's not that you completely shut down the scope changes, but you still, so scope can be variable, but both cost and schedule are fixed. In Agile, only the schedule is fixed. Both cost and scope are variable. They keep on changing. After every 2-week sprint, you will see a change. That's the beauty of Agile. It embraces change. This is your Agile iron triangle, which actually corresponds to the Agile triangle, which is your value, quality and constraints. Constraint is your scope, cost, schedule, but technically by embracing the change, your value, the customer can see the higher priority items early in their hand. They value it. The quality is improving. Why quality is improving? Customers can see the product as early as possible. Okay, so this is something which is rewarding the value. Predictive is something which actually gives the illusion of control, that the work is going in a very controlled manner, when in reality it may or it may not be. Okay, so if you see quickly, scope, cost, schedule, how different constraints affect the quality of the outcome. Basically, it's about change in one leg may impact at least one of the other two. That's your traditional iron triangle. Your agile iron triangle, your schedule is the primary driver. Okay, both your scope and cost are something which keeps on changing. You keep on getting the feedback from the customer. Okay, let's see if you are able to apply this question, understand the concept, and are you able to solve this question or not. Always remember, get your pen and paper, and in the comment section I want you to write the correct answer. Please don't go right into the answer choice. Think through it, use the elimination technique, and in the comment I want you to give me a reasoning why you picked one option over other. You can see there are people who will definitely reply to it, but I want to make sure that I personally reply to each and every question in this video. In the initial sprints, the team focused on building a base architecture of the system. The system is to be integrated with another system. So basically you are integrating two systems. The team realized that this integration doesn't work and they have to change the entire design of the architecture, making previous work done as a waste. What should the team do? First of all, is it the problem of the team that they were not able to catch this in the beginning? I would say not really. Nowhere in the question it's actually blaming anyone. Remember, in Agile, you don't blame each other. It's a teamwork. It's not about individuals, it's about team. What should the team do? Grab your pen and paper or a notepad, whatever you are using, write this down. A, B, C, D. The team realized that this integration doesn't work and they have to change the entire design. So the entire design has changed. Does it make sense to cancel the sprint? I would say not a bad idea. You can actually cancel the sprint because whatever work you have done is actually a waste. B, go back to the drawing board. Go back to the drawing board. This also makes sense. Cancelling the sprint is saying straight away, just cancel it. Go back to the drawing board is actually kind of resolving the problem. Always remember, in your PMP exam, pick the answer choice which is resolving the problem. So it is resolving the problem. So if I have to pick between A and B, I will definitely go for B. So I am eliminating A. C, continue with the work. Why would you continue with the work if you know that your architecture, whatever architecture you did, is now a waste? So C is gone. Conduct the root cause analysis. Okay, this is a very good answer choice. So we are left with B and D. Now you can say that, you know what, conduct a root cause analysis, that absolutely makes sense. I really want to know why this happened and things like that. But now, did you realize this one thing? It says, the team realized that this integration doesn't work and they have to change the entire design of the architecture. So basically, team already did their root cause analysis, and that is when they came to the analysis, they came to the result that these two integration will not work. So a root cause analysis is already done. So your best answer choice is B. Once again, remember, in your PMP exam question, you have to apply the concepts. You have to pick what is the best answer choice for you. There could be multiple answers also for a particular question, but on those type of scenarios, they will specifically tell you that whether this scenario is good or this, whether you have to pick two options or one option. Now, we are at the closing stage of this video. I hope you liked this video, but please don't go right away. After this video, we have recorded some behind the scenes, and I'm pretty sure they're pretty hilarious, and I'm pretty sure you will definitely laugh on that. So please do watch those behind the scenes, and also write the comment whether you liked it or not. Not just about those behind the scenes, but also on the overall video. So let's see, what did we discuss? We focused on Agile, Agile, the definition of Agile. We talked about the Agile teams and the leadership, the adaptive and servant. We talked about a very basic Scrum, XP, Lean and Kanban methodologies. And finally, we also focused on the Agile iron triangle, the traditional triangle and stuff. So stay tuned and watch these behind the scenes now. There was a time when a lot of people used to ask me this question. Varun, what is the difference between iterative and incremental life cycle? Of course, I used to explain them, but whenever somebody wanted to go into depth, this was my perfect response. I used to tell them, Agile is not in your PMP exam, but this is not true. Not anymore. This is now actually one of the most important topic for your PMP exam, and honestly, one of the most confusing one as well. Hey guys, my name is Varun and I am the founder of Edu HubSpot. In this video, I will explain you the different types of project life cycles and most importantly, solve some real scenario-based PMP exam questions to see whether you are able to apply those concepts in your real PMP exam or not. So grab a pen and paper or your laptop, whatever you are comfortable with, and let's go right into it. So before I even talk about the presentation agenda, what I will be talking about in this video, one thing I want you to understand. Understanding the concepts is one thing, and then applying those concepts in solving some real PMP exam scenario type questions is totally different. My videos, anyone can explain you this topic. Of course, someone may better explain than me or I may explain better than them, but that is not the real purpose of this video. Real purpose is when you understand, when I explain it to you, you have to make sure you are able to apply those concepts in real exam scenario type questions. So what I will do is, after these topics, I will be asking you multiple choice questions. I will be using my world famous, I call it, that's why people send me an email and say, I will use about my elimination technique. I will show you exactly how I use my elimination technique to come to the correct answer. So stay tuned. What all things we will discuss? We'll talk about the different life cycles, which is your predictive, iterative, incremental, agile and hybrid. Most importantly, the difference between iterative and incremental, very, very important. So let's go right into it. First is your predictive life cycle. As you all know, I always explain my videos through series of real life examples. Why? Because I know when you see a real life exam scenario, you will be able to understand this. So let's see. First is your predictive. As the name states, it's predictive, which means you can predict what's happening. So it's your typical waterfall model. If you don't know what waterfall model is, it is you analyze, you design, you build, you test, you deliver. Basically, it is like a finish to start relationship. You don't do things in parallel, you do it one step at a time. Now just imagine you want to construct a 10-floor apartment building. What you will do in predictive, how will you construct that? First, you will analyze that where you want, like a ground, where you want that apartment building. Then you will call your architects, the team of architects, they will design it. Once they design it on paper, then they will start building, then they will start constructing. So you will see a construction of that particular apartment. Finally, you will have your test inspections, some government agencies, government officers, they will come and test it. And finally, once everything is done, then it's right for the market, delivered, and people can start living in. This is your predictive life cycle. I didn't do things in parallel. I did it one step at a time. So let's see. It's a waterfall traditional approach where planning is done upfront. So what I did, if you see, I actually analyzed each and everything in the beginning itself. Then I designed all the architecture first on paper and then only I started building it, right? Why I did that? Because I exactly know that what are my requirements, what I really need, before we actually start going into making those deliverables. We actually do it in sequential order just to make sure that there are no surprises, no uncertainty, and it's the job of the project manager to make sure that he or she control the changes. Remember, in predictive or waterfall, it's kind of you want to avoid changes. They are not so open to changes, and this limitation was actually resolved by your other life cycle approaches, which we will be talk later in the week. Let's see. So first you have is not the first one, basically the second one you have is your iterative life cycle. So what happens in your iterative life cycle? You analyze, then you do the analyze and design, and you come up with a prototype. Once your prototype is done, you start working on it just to make sure that your prototype is perfect. You keep on working on your prototype. Of course, you will show it to the customer until your prototype is done ready. Once it is done ready, then it moves to the building and the test phase where the team actually tests it, make sure it is perfect, and finally you will deliver it to the customer as one single deliverable. Of course, there was feedback from your customer from time to time, but you delivered the complete product in the end as one single deliverable. That is your iterative life cycle. Still confused? Let me give you the same construction example. What we did in iterative life cycle, first we decided that this is the ground where I will build my 10-floor apartment. Then I will do the analysis. I'll start doing the documentation, design, architecture, and all those things. I will start doing it. I'll keep on perfecting my design on papers. Remember, keep on perfecting my design until I get the approval from the government that it is ready to move on. Once everything is done, once all the prototypes are done, then I will move to the building stage and the testing phase. So I'll keep on building it, keep on testing it until it is perfect. Once it is perfect, then finally it will be delivered to the end users where where it is available to buy, or the builders can start selling it. So you didn't started the work. When I say started the work, I mean you're not giving them in interim deliverables. You're giving this complete construction as one single deliverable. That's your iterative life cycle. Let's see. So requirements, why I did this approach as compared to predictive. First of all, requirements were dynamic. I was not sure that, like what type of fixtures would be there in my apartment, what type of paint colors, so unless my customer gave the go ahead, I keep on building it. I keep on, analyzing it, designing it just to make sure it is perfect. Of course, my customer is seeing the prototypes, and they are constantly improving the prototype until the customer signs it off on that, until they find it's perfect for them. You use this particular iterative approach where projects are complex and you require a lot of changes. Like for instance, one of the builders, let's say it's a combination of 10 builders. One of the builders said, I want red color. Other one says, no, I want light blue color of wall. So you will keep on trying it until all of the builders come to an agreement that yes, this is it. So the primary focus of your iterative is perfection. So keep on doing that until it is perfect. The next one is incremental life cycle. So what you do in increment? In incremental, you release in increments. Basically, what do I mean by that? First, you will analyze, build, test, deliver one particular feature. Customer likes it, you will make it live. You have given it to the customer, so you got the first interim deliverable as a customer. Then customer says, okay, let's move to the next most important feature. You will start working, you will follow the same cycle. Analyze, design, build, test and deliver. Okay, make it live. Same thing. You will continue this for n number of times until your final product is ready, which will be your last iteration per se. Okay, so let's see. Requirements are dynamic, an approach which provides finished deliverable to customer to use immediately. So in my same example of construction, what I did something differently here. In this same building, what I will do is I will first launch I'll first launch my first floor of the entire building. I'll make sure that the first floor is fully ready, it's ready, and now the builder will start selling only the first floor of the building because that is ready. Then I'll move to the next floor. I'll make sure that the second floor is perfect, everything is done, and then I'll start selling the second floor. Same thing for third, fourth, and fifth floor. So basically, if I am the construction worker, architect, I am delivering this construction house, this apartment in smaller deliverables. And my smaller deliverables are each floor. Okay, this approach is used where customer cannot afford to wait everything to be completed. They don't want the complete building to be completed. They just quickly want to sell it. Why? People are going crazy about construction. They want to buy new and new houses, and that is why you use it. Okay, the primary goal in this is quickness of delivery. If you compare it with iterative, the primary goal was perfection. You want to make the perfect solution. So in that, you launched your apartment building in one single deliverable. In incremental, you are launching your apartment building by each floors, and when the last floor is done, that is when you consider your construction building to be complete. That's your incremental life cycle. Now, agile life cycle. So basically, agile life cycle uses both your iterative and incremental life cycle. So it's like a combination of both which is used to deliver something. Now, agile life cycle is actually further divided into two types. First is your iteration based agile life cycle, and the second is your flow based agile life cycle. So let's see what is your iteration based agile. You'll follow the same process. You will have different time boxes. Every time box will be a working feature. So like for instance, I will say that, okay, so the team will be delivering it in 2-week sprint. So in a 2-week sprint, you are doing something, you come up with a conclusion, and then you launch it. Second, you again complete the second cycle, you build it, you make sure it is perfect, and then you launch it. Then you do it again, then you do it again. So you make sure you do the same thing multiple times. But what is the difference here? You have to remember it's a same size time box. So if your first iteration is of 2 weeks, your next iteration should also be of 2 weeks. Your third iteration should also be of 2 weeks. Your fourth iteration should also be 2 weeks. It's same size time box. Keep that in mind. That's your agile life cycle, which is basically you use the combination of iteration and incremental. Of course, you want to make sure it is perfect, and at the same time, perfectness of solution, which is your iteration, and at the same time, each working time box is actually a working feature. On the other way around, it is your flow-based agile. What is the flow-based agile? So time taken to complete the time box may be different. So in this, initially what I was doing, I had a 2-week sprint. In flow-based agile, my first one may be 2 weeks, other one may be 4 weeks, third one may be 3 weeks. But why we are changing this? In this, team just pulls up what from the backlog what they really need based on their capacity. If the team right now have a capacity of 40 story points worth of work, that is what they will pick up. Just like your Kanban. You see the Kanban board, which I explained you in the previous video. You pull up the work, you do it, you move to the next one. So this one is not definite. You will put a particular work in progress limit on each particular time box, and you will continue until your final one is ready. That's your agile life cycle. So let's quickly, this is an approach which uses both iterative as well as an incremental. So it used the iterative, which was for perfectness. It used the incremental, which was adding one over the other till the time your complete product is ready. Team will deliver the highest value first to the customer. Keep that in mind. That's very important. When you are pulling in a flow-based agile, when you are pulling the work from the backlog, you are actually pulling the work with the highest value based on the priority. First of all, it's a big misconception that Agile does not require planning. It is definitely not true. Agile, of course, requires planning. The only thing is, you do it through progressive elaboration. Like you always have a sprint planning, you always have a release plan, and of course I'll be discussing this in my next set of videos. All those things would be definitely covered. Now, the last life cycle I have is your hybrid life cycle. And there are different. Hybrid means combination of two, and it can be anything. The most common I would say is like agile development plus predictive rollout. Like your team is doing the development using agile approach, using iterative, incremental, you're using all those. But at the time of rollout, you don't want to do a mass rollout to everyone. What you're doing it to the first team, then you are doing it once the first team, you test the results, everything works fine, then you deliver to the second team, then to the third team. So you are doing it in a proper process. That's your agile development plus predictive rollout. Next one is your agile plus predictive, which is used simultaneously. Like for some portion where you think there would be a lot of changes, you are using agile. But something where your requirements are pretty certain, you know exactly changes are very expensive to change, you will use the predictive. So you're doing both the things at the same time. If something like this happens, that's also another example of hybrid life cycle. Then we have largely predictive, and small portion is the agile component. Let's say you're working on a team, and one of the component is that, you know what, it's some kind of third party, and you are doing an integration with that third party, but your organization is not comfortable with agile. So what you will do is, your team will follow the predictive, but the customer, not the customer, but the third party, the vendor who is working for you, he or she may be using agile component. Once done, they will give it to you. Same logic, which is largely agile plus predictive component. Same thing. Let's assume your company is doing agile, but the third party vendor, they are not comfortable with agile. So they did predictive. Once everything is done, they gave it to you. That's your hybrid life cycle. Okay, let's quickly see the difference between the different life cycles, and this is a very important slide because you will get a lot of questions from this slide, and of course I have added many questions on this topic so that you can understand it properly. So first, the traditional waterfall, which is your predictive. When do you use it? When your requirements are clear, when you know that your changes would be very expensive, so you prefer the predictive analysis. Just like your example was, something which you have done in the past. You know exactly what the requirement, like, I teach my boot camps. I teach live PMP boot camps, and this is something for me, it's predictive. Why? I keep on doing the same thing again and again. Of course, I have new set of students who are asking me questions, so that's good. But still, it is predictive. For me, it is the same thing. So I know exactly how much time it will take, and when it would be delivered, when a student would be ready. Then you have the iterative. You do iterative when, of course, your requirements are dynamic. Same is the logic with incremental, same is the logic with agile. When your requirements are changing, you prefer iterative, incremental or agile. But what is the key difference in iterative? You do this to make sure you do the same thing again and again until it is perfect. So perfection is the top priority in iterative, and quickness of solution is the top priority in incremental. If you see both the examples, iterative, you have correctness, and incremental, quickness, as I told you. Agile, of course, requirements are changing, so you will prefer agile, and it's not very expensive to make a change, so you prefer agile. Which particular example? The companies who want to use the advantage of both iterative as well as incremental, they prefer agile. And same is the case with hybrid, when your stakeholders do not want to adopt fully one method, and typically organizations who are transitioning to agile actually fall into the hybrid category. They first start with a particular approach like a predictive approach, because that's what they have been doing, and slowly and gradually they transition to Agile. When what is the example? Projects where you have mix of resources, where you have different people, one who is comfortable with Agile, other is comfortable with predictive, so you do the hybrid life cycle. Okay, so as I told you, grab a pen and paper. I want you to use the elimination technique in this, and I'll show you exactly. You understood the concept, which is very good. But if you're not able to solve these questions, then something is missing. So of course, you can definitely reach out to me also. You can see the phone number, email address of my team. If you want my direct email address also, you can reach out, which is my first name, Varun, VARUN .ANAND. That's my last name, @eduhubspot.com. Reach out to me if you need. But let's solve this question now. And I want to make sure, don't just tell me C is correct or B is correct. I want you to make sure that in the comment box on this video, I want you to write which answer is correct, and on top of that, I want you to make sure, give me the reason why you selected this. Don't just waste your time by writing A is correct. I will definitely read your comment and I'll definitely reply. I promise. I do that all the time. I love chatting directly with my students, and you will see I will definitely reply. So let's go right into this question. A new product owner has been working previously with waterfall. He's comparing both waterfall and agile planning. How is agile planning different from that of waterfall? So first of all, we will be using our elimination technique. Same thing, as you know, I love using elimination technique. Waterfall planning is iterative. As I explicitly told you, it is actually the agile planning which is iterative or incremental. Waterfall is not iterative. So definitely A is out. B, agile planning is iterative and just in time. So this just in time is a new concept which I have not taught you in this particular video, but this is something which I will be talking about in my next series of videos, which is the agile planning. And over there I have explained, but just in time means that you do the planning whenever, when the time is right. Okay, and that is true actually. That's what you do it in agile. See, in agile, planning is done upfront. No, it's actually your waterfall where the planning is done upfront. So C is eliminated. D, in waterfall, planning is done in phases. It's not necessary. You can do it in phases. You may not do it in phases. Typically, you try to plan everything upfront in waterfall. So it's not necessary that it will be in phases. So out of all the 4 answers, your B is the correct answer choice. I hope the reasoning which you wrote is the same. But yeah, I would definitely read into your reasoning. Let's do another one. You are a project manager and have divided the product development into series of iterations where you will be adding more functionality during each iteration. After the final iteration, your product will be completely functional. What development life cycle are you following? So this one may be a confusing one, because both in your iterative and incremental, there are series of iterations. So in both you do series of iteration. Definitely it is not, if you see, it is not predictive. It is not. Predictive does not involve iteration. It is like one after the other. Similarly, it's not hybrid, because nowhere in the question they were talking about predictive analysis. They are saying series. So it's either B or C. Now, if you remember, what was iterative life cycle? You work on something, then you keep on doing the work on that particular aspect unless it is perfect. Okay, so you continuously work on this to make sure it is perfect. Do you see anything like this in the question? Are they saying that they are working on one and they are refining it, making it better more and more? In fact, what they actually said, they said you're adding more functionality during each iteration, which is your incremental life cycle. If you remember my example of construction, what did you do? This was my building. Okay. I first launched this floor, then I launched my second, then I launched the third, then I launched the fourth floor. What was I doing? I was actually adding more and more functionality after every iteration. So your perfect answer is your incremental life cycle. Now I have more than thousands of questions honestly on my website, where of course, which is about agile and predictive. Your real PMP exam will have 50% agile and 50% predictive, so I've added many. And before you close this video, one thing I want to tell you is, and I'm pretty sure you will laugh on this, I've added some behind the scenes just after this video, so make sure you watch it. I find it very funny and I'm pretty sure you would love it too. And please write a comment if you like it, if you like the behind the scenes, and of course if you like my entire video. Let's see what all we discussed. We discussed the different types of life cycles. Very, very important. Understand the difference between these life cycles and the examples which I gave you. And more importantly, try to understand, try to wear that PMI hat to answer these life cycle scenario based questions. So see you soon.